came today. I'd like to welcome Paul Behrmann and Doug Belliston and Richard White, three of the main leaders for financial services at the university. We're grateful that they spent the time and offered to come down and meet with us. The Lunch and Learn is just a chance for folks in OIT to learn about different offices, different places within OIT and on campus, what they do and who they work with. So with that, I will ask Josh DeWitt to come forward and say the opening prayer and then turn the time over to our guests.
Will everybody remember to please sign the roll that's at the front of the room, please? Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're very grateful for the opportunity we have to be here at BYU, to be part of this great institution. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to work here at OIT. Please help us as we meet today, that we might be able to learn and grow, and that we might be better stewards of the responsibilities that we've been given. We're grateful for the financial blessings that we have here at this university, and we're grateful that these individuals are able to come and speak to us today. We're grateful for all that we have, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
My name is Paul Behrmann. I work in the budget office. Do you have any idea why they chose me to start? Keep in mind, we're all accountant types. We're very structured and very organized. Come on, people, think. Why me?
Alphabet.
Alphabet! Excellent! B-E-H comes before B-E-L. And let's not get too sensitive about it, because Richard has always been alphabetically challenged. All right. Where do we fit? Our boss, we all report to Brian Evans, who's the Administrative Vice President and CFO. He's on the President's Council with your boss, literally your boss.
Correct.
Okay? Kelly Flanagan. Kelly and Brian are good friends. I hope it stays that way after this presentation. Okay? Brian has all of these organizations reporting to him. Visit Facilities, the BYU store.
Yeah.
Don't tell them we have that up there. Okay? Dining Services, PERSS. Who knows what that stands for? First. Stands for first. Okay. I can't tell you. I don't remember. It's some collaboration or something. Come on in.
Dutch.
Thanks for bringing your lunch. Human Resources, Purchasing and Travel, Administrative Solutions, and us in Financial Services. Which group gives you guys? Which group do you guys work with the most out of all those organizations? Financial Services. You, Brand, those are who else? Administrative Solutions. They're the ones that were assigned in Brian's area to deal with all the technology stuff. And so Chad and all of his people, you probably work as a collective group more with them than anybody else. Which one do you like the best? See, you answer too quickly. All right. So this shows you where we fit. I can't believe you decided to go.
They're giving out money.
Okay, we'll jump to that point right now. We're willing to add as many zeros behind the decimal point on your paycheck as you like. Behind the decimal point. Think about it. All right. Welcome. So, you understand where we fit? So within financial services, you have the three directors that report directly to Brian, and we're going to talk about each of our areas today. Starting with my group. It's a big group, okay? There are three people in the budget office. Joel Christensen deals with all of the, what we call the church appropriated areas. Some of you might have heard it called Fund 11 or Church General Fund or terms like that. He deals with all of those. Brian Andelin deals with all of the auxiliaries on campus, which is OIT. A church appropriated or an auxiliary?
Yes.
Correct answer. Boy, these guys are sharp. Now, you have a little of both, okay? And so, because of that, I'm the liaison to OIT, okay? Make sense? All right. What do we do in the budget office? We are the liaison between BYU and the Office of the Commissioner of Church Education System for all budget and finance matters with the church. We are responsible for making sure that we're in compliance with all university and church budget office policies and procedures. Okay? And we prepare annual budgets for the university, and we provide monthly reports to management to report how we're doing on those budgets. Totally unimpressed, I can tell you. So what do we do as far as OIT is concerned in this budgeting process? Mike, what do we do?
Well, just as you stated up there, you work within the parameters of 3 to 4 different categories, really, for funding elements.
What's your category?
I focus pretty specifically on ITE.
Does everybody know what ITD is in this room? That's our development projects. Okay? I had one on there this last year, it did not make the cut. That's all we're going to say about that.
You were in the meeting when the line was drawn.
He's trying to put it back on me.
Was that the one that had all the zeros?
But it was still approved. It was still approved if you can find the money.
How many times have we told organizations on campus the same thing? It hurts coming the other direction. All right, so we have technology budgets that the church gives us. How are these different from operating budgets? Operating budgets are given on an annual basis to pay for your salaries and to buy supplies and things like that. All of these type of budgets are called project budgets, meaning they're not constrained by an annual year. They're given and they can go over a year if they do. Does your budgets ever go over more than just 12 months?
Well, we have ourselves set a time limit of 2 years on those dollars.
Okay, and that's true with all of your budgets in the technology arena. We try to keep them within that 2-year period. That's not a church requirement. That's something we've decided to do here. Makes sense though, because if you're given money to replace this projector, that's probably maybe not be a good example. But if it's 2 years old, it might be out of date. I mean, we might have to request a new budget because things could have changed. Okay? Do you have any questions about any of these other budgets that we work with you guys on? Let me ask you one other question then. Right at the bottom, I indicated that we work with both the appropriation and the annual cash flow budget. I just explained that project budgets are not limited to 12 months. They can go longer than that. But the church has a policy. They actually have 3 or 4 main policies when they deal with budgets. They say we will never spend more than we get in. It sounds just like they encourage us as members of the church to do. Okay? They always put some away for a rainy day. That sounds just like things they encourage us as members of the church to do. Now they encourage us to pay tithing, and they don't have one of those because they receive that. But that principle of I was kind of blocking your way here, sorry. I tend to wander around. That principle of never spending more than you get in a given year, they have to make sure that they follow that. And so even though they approve these project budgets that can carry over, they require us also to identify how much we're going to spend next year so that they can take all those requests from the church and add them up and say, okay, we're within the amount that we need to be. And so that annual cash flow number is very important because we cannot, as a church, violate that principle and spend more than we get in that given year. Okay? So those are the real fun ones. those are, putting together the project budget, you're guessing a year and a half to 2 years to 3 years in advance, which is difficult. But then we come along and say, now tell us how much you're gonna spend in that 12-month period for that project. That's a little bit more difficult, but it's really important. Okay? Next thing I do is annual ITI verifications. Okay, the ITI stands for Information Technology Infrastructure, for those of you who don't know. That's all the budget that we get to run all the lines, do all the presentation devices like this projector, all the servers that we have, and all the computers, what we call access devices. And the church gives us money to fund all that sort of stuff. And one of the principles of that budget is that we have somebody go around and make sure that all the items that are in that database to be replaced actually exist. So we take a sample out of that, and I literally walk around from room to room saying, yeah, that projector's there where they said it was supposed to be. So check that off. Okay? By the way, if any of you don't like what we're saying, you're free to leave.
Use infrastructure.
Yeah, he didn't like what we were talking about. All right, any questions about the budget office? My piece of this. Great, I'm going to turn the time over to Doug then to go through the next piece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, only if I get half your lunch.
Well, I'm glad to be here today too. It was an opportunity to put on a tie and see if I still knew how to tie it. I see some of you have that in mind today too. My area is responsible for accounting. I have 3 different accounting groups. One financial accounting, another regulatory accounting, and a third student financial accounting. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about why so dang many accounting groups around here to handle what we do. Each of them have a different focus. Let me start with financial accounting. I thought I'd introduce you to some of the people that lead that group. These are Duff Gardner's the director of financial accounting, and these 3 managers are responsible for accounting and accounts payables. Craig Larson in accounting, Jerry Sandbachen in accounts payable, and Shannon Reed in payroll. Which one of those do you care most about? That's what I thought. I thought I'd go with Paul's question and answer. I thought you'd be most interested in payroll, as am I most days. This financial accounting group has these primary responsibilities. They're involved in producing the financial reporting that occurs at the university through tools that you support us with, and we'll talk about those in a moment. But they are involved in designing and producing, running those reports on a monthly basis that go out and flood the campus with a waterfall of financial information that we hope and constantly encourage people to review to see if it actually is accurately representing their activities. They, in the accounts payable area, of course, vendor payments. We produce payments to thousands of vendors at BYU because of the variety of activities that we've done. Our employee payments through payroll. This group also handles this annual financial reporting, which has a lot to do with this last bullet point in their interactions with the external auditors. BYU is audited by Deloitte, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms. Years ago, we were audited by church audit, and that was enough. But as our research activities have grown, and as the demands upon church audit have grown, we've gone to an external firm. Having that external audit opinion for BYU is very valuable in a number of ways. It is to the federal government because of the large amounts of federal funding that come to BYU. It's also valuable for our accreditation as external accreditors come and review the financial resource stability of BYU. These are the primary systems that you are very familiar with supporting us on. PeopleSoft Financials, Accounts Payable, Payroll, Time and Labor, and Asset Management, all in the PeopleSoft realm. Business Objects, which is our primary reporting foundation to the campus. That opens the general ledger in PeopleSoft to the campus, and in being able to query information from the system across their criteria. And of course, Business Objects is supported with Informatica. Terry, there you are. Helping with Informatica mirroring. We also have an imaging system that provides document storage for the university. In our regulatory accounting group, now this group is different in that it's more concerned about the regulatory requirements for taxation and research. We also group in there the endowment funding that comes from external donors, because it has a little more reporting back to others flavor to it. These are the main people that are involved there. Kevin Walker is the director, Kathleen Rugg as the research accounting manager, Paul Larson addresses gift accounting with endowments, etc. And Bob Shermer is our tax accounting manager.
Doug,
Yes,
we talked about federal money coming to BYU. What kind of money is that?
we have a boatload of money. Probably the smallest slice of that is research accounting, although it's significant. But the real elephant in that federal funding comes in student payments for Pell Grants primarily. A very large portion of the tuition that students pay is actually funded by federal Pell Grants and also by federal student loans. So that combination brings a lot of money to BYU. And so the government is quite interested to have eyes into how that money is utilized so that they gain confidence that it's being used properly. That's another part of that audit process that occurs. These are their primary responsibilities. We've talked about some of those already. One that you might not be too familiar with is Jerusalem Center. Kevin Walker acts as the controller, if you will, for the Jerusalem Center and does that accounting work for them. Jerusalem Center is currently on about a half capacity basis by direction of the First Presidency. I think they're just interested in not having too many students in that area at the current time. Regulatory accounting utilizes these financial systems as well, but they don't have the primary management responsibility and interaction with you for the various aspects of those systems. The third part of our accounting at BYU is for students. It's to provide students their billings, receive their payments and so forth. Jay Hansen leads this portion of student financial accounting with Dennis Hegum as an applications admin person monitoring the activities of the system. Lori Glenn is the manager over student accounts, and Kyle Yetter is new to our group, but he acts as a system analyst. Jay's assistant director takes a little more responsibility with commercial accounts and collections. Brian Blum is that assistant director, and Crystal Fraser takes responsibility for billing external customers to BYU. Strangely enough, we do have some billings that go to other companies that owe money to BYU. We also bill the church, a little bit of a misnomer, but that church billings happen through commercial accounts as well. Yes.
Why does that fit under student financial instead of just regular financial?
It's because their group has the receivable system. And with the bulk of that being student finance, this is kind of a tag-on to handle the billing for these other commercial or church receivables. It does happen at BYU. We do require collection activities to occur. BYU is, I don't know if it's the absolute lowest in needing to collect from students who don't pay on time, but we're awfully close to the lowest in the country. A norm for a university is to have about an 8 to 9% past due accounts situation. BYU, we're more like about 0.5%. So that's really amazing. When the creditors come, they're just shocked at the
Sound like Guido's not on the org chart?
That's right. We do hire some Guidos to go after that 0.5%. As I mentioned, they address the student charges and payments, external charges, and seek those past due accounts. Their managed software is PeopleSoft Student Financials, which is the receivable system, and My Financial Center, which has been largely built here by you folks. So that's the three legs of my stool. A very important part of that, however, is the support of campus controllership. So the accounting activities at BYU, we certainly do all of this centrally, but a large portion of what's happening is on campus in the business offices of colleges and the divisions. Each of those are headed by a controller within those organizations, and so these three groups, these three groups support that campus controllership activity. They respond to questions, they help with training, and just generally assist them however they can in those accounting duties. So, what are our main interactions with you? I have the opportunity to sit on the PeopleSoft Administrative Advisory Team. We meet about monthly and talk about the direction that PeopleSoft itself is headed. We join together with many representatives here from OIT and several of the financial managers as well, and try to keep a handle on where we're going, when we're going to do those things, when the upgrade activities will happen, and so forth. PeopleSoft itself, we rely on you tremendously for operational support, project upgrades, and for year-end tax reporting. Also business object support. That's the backbone of our reporting at BYU. And lastly, as we hit that audit time period in the springtime of the year, auditors come here and test the security of the systems at BYU. So there's a great deal of interview and review of those systems to be sure that proper controls are in place. Yes, Joel?
Under your PeopleSoft, those first two sound like IT support items, but the third one sounds like something on your administrative end of things. What is it we do for you on the tax reporting?
Robin is primarily involved with that, helping to be sure that all of this information that we've been gathering gets in the right places for W-2s, for 1099s. We also do a fair amount of massaging of some of that data that hasn't been captured the way we expected it to. So that's a big help there too. So, give you a chance to ask any questions about debits and credits that you would like, or anything else. Yes?
Can you talk about the business continuity planning that you've been involved with and kind of
Sure.
where that's at?
Sure.
nowadays?
One of the side responsibilities that Brian gave to me and that I've enlisted help with, among others of financial services, is to assist the campus with business continuity planning. Many times people confuse continuity planning with emergency response or disaster response. That's a little bit different. Business continuity planning happens after the initial disaster response occurs, probably within a couple of day period. The business continuity thought processes have to kick into place. Basically what that means is if something bad happens, how do we get back to doing business almost as usual as quickly as we can? How do we know what we need to do to make that happen? Do we have response plans in place for how we'll take those actions? Have we considered the risks that are there and created mitigation plans to reduce the impact of those risks? So, as a side duty for me, we meet in a workshop type setting with many groups on campus trying to help them develop their own business continuity plans. So we help them identify issues that they can be aware of and begin planning for. I'll just give you a scenario. We've had cases in the past where we've had data, the significant problem with data center about 2 years ago. Is it that long now? Year and a half perhaps? But that, when that situation occurred, we realized in several places on the campus, we weren't quite ready to deal with that. If we had a fire in a major building, major academic building, where would we put those classes? How many people are in those classes? Do we have alternate faculty available to teach those classes if we had a pandemic and people weren't available to teach that we expected to? So we consider those kinds of issues in that continuity planning process. OIT has been involved in doing that as well, and they're very well along in development of that continuity plan. Version 1.0 has been completed, but as with any of those significant efforts, it's important to take it to 2.0. And so we go through that cycle with all of the major areas of campus. Thank you. Other questions? Okay, Richard, I'm going to turn that to you.
Well, we all know why we have Paul start these discussions. He's not your normal accountant type. He's more outgoing and vivacious. I tried to be like Paul at one time, but I had an experience early on that discouraged me from doing that. So right after we were married, I wanted my wife Janet to know that just because I was majoring in accounting, I wasn't a boring person. She she had told me that she had heard that an accountant coming to a party was the equivalent of two really fun people leaving. I wanted to convince her that I was not like those other accountants. And so one day, shortly after we were married, I got home from school a little before her and decided I think I'll surprise her. And so when I heard her coming home, I took my place in the closet. And as she opened the door and came through the door, I came rushing out of the closet with a loud growling sound. Well, as soon as I saw Janet's eyes, I knew I had made a horrible mistake. She froze and then went completely limp and fell into my arms. I had to literally hold her for several minutes for her to engage. I felt so horrible about, and I felt really badly of the trauma that I caused her, and apologized profusely. And as part of that apology, I promised her that I would never try to be a fun person. And I've tried my best to be since then. So we're glad to be here. I'm in Treasury Services. I'm the treasurer of the university. A lot of people ask me, well, how many treasurers are there? And I take that as kind of as a cut, you know, to think that I'm not able to be the only treasurer, really. But that, in fact, is the case. But I have a great team that actually helps me. And these are the 4 people that report directly to me. John Leatherwood, and he works with some of the systems that you may be familiar with. He works with our CS Gold system, the micro system, and a new thing that's part of the CS Gold system called Cooper Cash. Gene McMurtry, who replaced Matt Caven, many of you probably knew Matt Caven. Gene McMurtry from the BYU store has taken his place, and he is over merchant services, which basically has anything to do with taking a credit card as a payment. And related to that, he's also responsible for PCI compliance. PCI stands for Payment Card Industry, and it's a very sophisticated and complex standard that takes an awful lot of work, especially from many of you here in OIT, to comply with that standard. And the whole purpose of it is to make sure that whenever we take a credit card, that we're protecting that data as best as we possibly can. And then Terry Freeman, who's been here at the university and has been here as long as I have been, she is our cashiering administrator. And Dane Larson, who just recently replaced Steve Watrous, who retired on December 31st and is now serving a mission in New York, where he's from, is also responsible for all the cash management. These 2 people are involved in Payment Manager, which is an online system for taking payments, a lot of tuition and other payments at the university, and also for our cashiering system, which is third-party provided, which is CashNet, still requires quite a bit of integration with our other systems here at the university. So, a couple of the things that we do are, we handle vault and cash services. Even though cash is becoming less important, we still have a lot of cash needs on campus. And so in Treasury Services, we act as the bank to the university. And when people need cash for their change funds or for any of the other needs, we handle that. We also have a courier service that goes around and picks up deposits and consolidates and makes sure cash and checks and other things like that get to the bank securely. So that's included in our vault and cash. Part of that is our cash management. As important as budgets are and as important as accounting for it is, we actually, in Treasury Services, move the money. We actually put the money into your bank account when payday comes and stuff like that. So what we do at cash management is we do our very best to try and keep the cash invested properly until it's actually needed, and then and then to make sure we have enough cash to meet our daily needs. So that takes quite a bit of work. When you think about all of the various ways we receive money at the university and pay money from this university, it's quite a complicated process, keeping track of all of that and making sure we have enough money to cover those. So that's what we do in cash management. Part of cash management there are a number of payment tools and receipt tools that we use. We at the university still use checks. We use credit cards, or what we call in a corporate setting, purchasing cards, travel cards. These are all credit card types. And and we're responsible for those. We do checks still. We make sure that we have secure check stock. And we have a lot of different controls on our bank accounts that prevent fraud from taking place on our bank accounts. At least once or twice a year, someone tries to fraudulently get money out of our bank accounts by fraudulent checks or something like that. So we're constantly aware of things like that. Investment management, you're probably not, that doesn't involve IT too much. We go through Ensign Peak Advisors, which is the investment department at church headquarters, rather than duplicate the expertise they've developed in investing and management of those investment funds. We piggyback on them and use their expertise. But we have to do some work with endowments here and setting up portfolios and setting up a number of different things so that all the different endowment accounts and other reserve accounts across campus can invest in funds. And that's investment management. Merchant services and credit card security, we work very closely with OIT in this area. And last year we went through a very difficult PCI assessment on it. How many of you in here are involved in the PCI assessment? Quite a few. It wasn't any fun last year, was it? And so we're actually in the process of getting a we're just finalizing an RFP for a new auditor. So credit card security is a big issue for us. As much because of the reputation that's associated with a default or a compromise in it, as much as it is a financial loss. But the financial losses can be very severe. Have any of you heard of any big companies that have had problems with their credit cards lately?
We heard that.
Target, people.
There's a lot of that going on, isn't it? It's really quite rampant. So it takes a real effort to stay ahead of these fraudsters. Our university cashiering systems are the major ones that we use on it. Oh, Michelle.
Just on that point, so I learned recently as far as the different levels with PCI, and it's all based on the credit card transactions. Do you know which level we are?
Yeah, we're considered a level 2 merchant.
2? Okay. Thank you.
But as a level 2 merchant, we actually comply as if we were a level 1 merchant.
Okay.
It's that important to us that we PCI comply. As a level 2 merchant, you are not required to have an outside independent assessment. But we've chosen to do that for a number of reasons. One, because of the complexity of all of our systems. 2, because of we don't have the expertise internally to be able to do it. And so those are some of the reasons why.
Thank you.
The university cashiering systems are, like I mentioned, CashNet is a third-party provided system, but we use OIT people to help us integrate the extracts and other things like that come out of that third-party system into our other systems within the university. So that plays a very, very important role for us as well. CS Gold is actually another cashiering system that's used mostly by dining services and other auxiliaries around campus that use those. That is actually a major system. Our interaction with OIT is probably the greatest in this area of them maintaining the servers and the software and the updates and other things like that on Micros and CS Gold, which is a great benefit to us. It used to be housed separately in student auxiliary services, but a few years ago it was moved over and made a core system of the university. So with that, we were able to save a great deal of money in moving it over, in incorporating it into my financial center, and being able to do a number of things to make it more of an infrastructure to the university. And so so what we've tried to do now is we're trying to leverage that work and make it more, and that's why this last year we came out with this program called Cougar Cash. Have any of you heard of Cougar Cash? Do any of you use Cougar Cash? Do you like it?
Love it.
Yeah. Why do you like it? Because you save sales tax at a dining location. And if you use do any of you eat at Cannon Commons? You get that for $5 if you use Cougar Cash to do that, don't you? So you can do that. You can use your Cougar Cash account in a couple of different ways. You can have an automatic payroll deduction, or you can load the money on in advance as a preloaded account. How many of you have payroll deduction? It's the best way to go. Do all of you have?
With the limit.
What's that?
With the limit.
With the limit. It must have a limit, and you get to set the limit. And you can. Do any of you have the Cougar Cash application on your cell phone? You gotta try that. In the BYU suite, you know that BYU suite of apps on your phone. There's an Apple and there's an iOS and an Android version. You can go out and load that, and Cougar Cash. Don't search for Cougar Cash in the App Store. Search for the BYU app. And Cougar Cash is a sub app of that. In that is an app inside that BYU app. Load that in there, and you'll be able to, on a real-time basis, be able to see your transactions. You can change. You can actually see your balance and see your transactions. We build it first of all for students so that students can actually add money to their account from their cell phone. And it's turning out to be extremely popular. And we are really grateful for OIT's support. That was a home run, actually, for us, is that the development of those two apps for our rollout of Cougar Cash. And the whole reason we're doing this is because that application being covered and being paid for by the university is the cheapest and best way for us to make payments on campus. If you go to we call it a win-win deal, where if you use Cougar Cash, you can save money in sales tax because the state doesn't require us to charge sales tax to the current employees of the university. And by you using Cougar Cash, the merchants that you're buying from, they're able to save the merchant fees. And the costs of the transactions in CS Gold are minimal, are almost, there is no extra charge for them. We can put through millions of transactions and it will cost the same as if we put through a few $100,000. So we're trying to exploit this and use this, and we need your help to help us get the word out across campus that you just think whenever you want to make a purchase on campus, use Cougar Cash, and then it's a win for everybody. Yes?
Why was the signature card taken away from the concessions at the football games? When you're trying to use Cougar Cash, why is that eliminated?
That was a disappointment to us. We were kind of sad to see that go, but that was a personal decision that they made because it was so difficult for them to get the hardware and the equipment and the infrastructure in the stadium for 6 or 7 events during the year to support what would be needed for us to be able to process those transactions. There's actually hundreds of merchants in the stadium, and it would be very difficult, very hard to be able to set them up so that they can all take through the cash. And so it's just the logistics of why that happened. That's the reason why that happened. Do any of you have any other questions about treasury services? Yes.
Appreciate you paying attention to PCI compliance for obvious reasons, and it is high on everybody's attention list. Do you have an understanding of some of these, like the Target and Home Depot violations? I'm sure they're highly PCI compliant.
Yeah.
Did those violations happen because there's weaknesses in PCI or weaknesses in their following of the PCI?
You know, the piece, Terry.
I know in the Target case, it was actually a software infiltration to their system that then got into their actual application. But I had a fraud case against my checking account, and I was talking with my bank, and they said, you know, everything's hit every day. It is a constant thing. What we don't know is how many aren't reported to us. There's a lot that isn't even reported, but it's happening all the time.
Even as we speak, maybe there's a compromise in the BYU system. You don't know it until you find it.
Right.
But you know what we have found is that many of the compromises have been internal compromises, but it hasn't necessarily been because in nearly every case they've always felt like there's been it isn't because the PCI standard is insufficient, but it's because there's been some kind of a breakdown in that system. And PCI compliance is something where you can be PCI compliance for 364 days out of the year, and then in a change or something like that. So it's an ongoing, continual thing. And that's what makes it extremely challenging. Because, as Terry says, our systems are being hit every day. Testing our system to see how strong they are. Paul, we'll turn the time back to you.
Okay.
Where's that?
We're almost done. Hang with me. When I walk into your building, I see that old telephone device sitting there, and I see all the displays out front of the old discs and everything. And so and there's enough of you that have similar hair to me that will go ahead and show you this and remind you of.
You're quoting all.
And the last thing I want to do, since you invited us here, is offer you one suggestion of how to deal with a problem that we face all the time. Seems like whenever we roll out any system changes or any new systems, that we always get somebody on campus that raises their hand and say, will that work on a Mac? Okay? So, on a Mac computer.
That's what he said online.
So we thought, we've been thinking a lot about it, and I have one suggested solution for it. Appreciate your time.